Good morning, subscribers. It's G-Economics here, and today we are considering A2 Economics, specifically pages 10 and 11 of this OCR endorsed Peter Smith textbook. In my previous video, we considered budget lines and indifference curves, and we considered what would happen to those curves and to those lines when there was an increase in the price of apples. That is the diagram in your textbook, and I walked you through that, I talked you through that. You will not find in that textbook a diagram to show what happens when there is a reduction, for example, in the price of apples. But you may, in the exam, of course, be asked to consider such a scenario. And so here today, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to talk you through that very scenario. So our start point, ladies and gentlemen, is as ever, we have budget line 1, comme ça. And I'm telling you that the example here is that the price of apples falls. So we're looking at a reduction in price. So we know therefore that the budget line is not going to be shifting, it is going to be pivoting. And it will be pivoting around this point here on the y-axis, because of course it's the price of apples which are changing and not the price of cola. The price of apples are falling. That means that we, with a given level of income, can consume more apples. So we will be moving in this direction, left to right, and so our new budget line, our second budget line, will be here, budget line 2. So what's the next step here? The next step is to put our start position onto the diagram. So we need to have a certain point, which we will call point A, and that will be tangential to an indifference curve like that, and we'll call that indifference curve 1. So that's our initial starting point, that's our initial equilibrium, if you will, in this particular example. Now, we know that the price of apples have fallen, and that's why we've had this pivot, and the pivot moving us over here like so. But let's just think about this. What would a rational consumer do, potentially, if they wanted to maintain the level of satisfaction they enjoy at indifference curve 1, but at the new price ratio? In other words, when the price of apples have fallen. Well, when the price of apples have fallen, they will say to themselves, at least if you're rational, you would say to yourself, I'll buy less cola, because the opportunity cost of consuming cola has gone up, and I'll buy more apples. Now, is it possible for us to show that on this diagram with the new price ratio? The new price ratio being shown by budget line 2. It is, ladies and gentlemen, and as you'll know, we do that by means of what's referred to in your OCR textbook as a shadow budget line. So that shadow budget line will be parallel to budget line 2, and we're going to shift it across here so that it's just tangential to this indifference curve 1. So we want it to be, it's going to hit around this point here. Now these diagrams, they really are, ladies and gentlemen, they're kind of a little bit of trial and error to get these right. If you do this once and maybe the indifference curve's not quite flat enough or steep enough, just alter it. You will get there in the end. It really is, practice makes perfect on these. So that's your shadow budget line. And you can see we've got a new equilibrium point here, which we're going to call point C. And let's just think whether or not point C is in the correct position. Should it be to the right of A or should it be to the left of A? Let's think about what we said previously. The rational individual, to enjoy the same level of satisfaction as they were doing at point A, because of course any point on this indifference curve yields the same amount of satisfaction. Remember, that's the whole terminology, isn't it? The rational consumer is indifferent between point A and different between point C because they both yield the same level of satisfaction. But is C at the right place? Should it be to the right of A or to the left of A? Well, we've already said that the rational individual will consume more apples and less cola. Is that what we're shown here? It is, because we're moving down from A, so that's less cola, and we're moving to the right of A, so that's more apples. So that, ladies and gentlemen, in this instance, that will be our positive substitution effect. And that's moving us, obviously, to the right. So that's the sub effect. What about the income effect? Well, you'll remember, ladies and gentlemen, there's something called our real wage, which is W, the money wage, divided by the price level. So if your money wage, let's say, is £100 a week, and the price level of an item you're buying is £50, then you can obviously afford to buy 2 of those items. If the price level falls, let's say to £25, but your money wage remains constant, then obviously you could buy 4 items. So in this instance, we're assuming that cola and apples are normal goods. And so we will assume, therefore, that the rational individual who prefers more to less, remember, the rational individual will want to be buying and enjoying and consuming more cola and more apples. And so we need a finish point, a final equilibrium point, which is not only going to be to the right of point C, but also above point A. And so our finishing point is going to be up here somewhere on indifference curve 2. And remember, it's indifference curve 2 because as we move out from the origin, utility and satisfaction is going up. Therefore, indifference curve 2 represents a higher level of satisfaction than at indifference curve 1. So this movement from C to B, this is our income effect. And so the combination of these 2 factors, the positive substitution effect and also the positive income effect, means that we ultimately end up moving, overall, we end up moving from point A to point B. But you need to be able to explain and identify the mechanics behind that. Why do we get from A to B? So what is the substitution effect? In which direction is it working? What's the income effect? In which direction is it working? But overall, we move from A to B. So that's a diagram not in your textbook, ladies and gentlemen. There are all sorts of scenarios that you could come up with which aren't in the textbook, and you could think about them and maybe practice drawing diagrams for them. But those are certainly my thought processes behind that diagram, and I hope that is of help to you. As ever, keep subscribing. If you've got any questions and queries, do get in touch and I'll do my very best to get back to you. So bye for now and thanks for tuning in.